So we have seen this is setup of our project. So we just created one package known as email app, and we created a class which is basically publicly specified class. Now I will explain what is our blueprint of our project, and then I will explain some basics of class methods and objects, etc. So let's see what is the blueprint of our project. So project blueprint is, consider this is as a package email app. This is email class and methods just I created. So this is project blueprint, package email app, and this is email class and methods, and which I created before in ID I showed. So now this is done. These things are done basically. In future, what we are going to do as we move in our project, we will create one main class. We will load all the methods related to this using objects, and we will execute these methods inside this main class. This is our main project blueprint. So let us see what is basically Java classes and methods. So Java class. Let's see first thing about class. Everything in Java is associated with classes and object. Without classes and objects, you cannot create any code, or we can say any method in Java. So it contains attributes, methods. Attributes are basically what we can say is classes plus attributes create some environment for method. So for example, in real life example, you can consider car is an object. Car has attributes such as weight and color, and methods are such like drive, brake, and something like that. So basically, we can create car as a class. Its attributes are weight, color, their model numbers, etc. And methods, car can stop, drive, brake, etc. So class is like a object constructor, we can say. It creates the object, or we can say constructor of the object, or it can be a blueprint for creating objects. So objects are basically just invoking the class. Classes also hold some user defined attributes to pass values or input from user. So we can give the user defined attributes also inside the classes. Now what is meant by objects in Java? So objects are basically associated with classes, but what is the simplest form we can say that to use a class, object is used basically. So if you define some class and you want to use that class, you have to define the object. As class is already created, we have to only just create the object for that particular class. As we created already that object class, we can easily create their object. But like class, then we can create the object. So this is all about the class. Now let us see some what we are going to do in our project. So before moving in further, I will proceed with code or project. Let us see. So inside this, I created this class. So I need to create some methods. But before that, we need to invoke some libraries. So for the libraries, I am going to put import java.util.star. I will explain what is this meaning. I'm not going to use this, but I'm not currently using this library. It's showing ID is showing this. You are not using this library currently. But what is the significance of this? It is very important library, java.util.star. Dot star meaning in the util, I am using utilize the all things related to that. So we can say it is very basic library inside Java. Another same library I am going to use is import java.io.star. It is basically input output library for invoking and taking user inputs. It will be the helpful library. So as this is done, our first thing I am going to explain here is how to take user inputs in Java. So you can do is scanner. it is the by default method, we can say, or default method for taking inputs. I'm going to use this. So I'm going to invoke inside class only because I'm going to specify it as a public. So what I can do is public scanner. Public is access specifier, public scanner. As you invoke scanner, you can see now the java.util, it's started. So scanner, this scanner class is belongs to this library, java.util. It's by default library. S is equal to new scanner. This is a syntax, basically syntax to invoke scanner. System, it is again one of the by default classes, system.in, which is basically method. So this is done. Now I am going to set up some variables here. So for this I will explain. I just put here scanner class for explanations. Now setting variables. Setting variables, I'm going to set some variables here. But for the security issue, we can say I'm going to create some abstract thing here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use private here. As this is public given, I'm going to use here private. So let us consider this private string. I'm going to specify for string f name, basically first name. Similarly, private string last name. Similarly, like that, I'm going to create some similarly like department, DEPT department for department. Then for email, then for password. Now consider this, I am going to specify all these things in the string method only, like string as a string variable only. Now I am going to specify its mail capacity, which is integer capacity is equal to 5. I'm considering by default 500 MB. Then private string, again alternate mail, basically string alter email. So we are done with invoking. Now remember, these are the global, or we can say these are strings can be accessible throughout this class. So in the class I can create as much as I want for methods. So I can use this throughout this class. As you can see, this class ends here. I can use throughout this class. So we are done with creating some variables, and I am setting is to the private to not give access directly, basically. Once this is done, no one can access this, as its access specifier is private. So let us see with some constructor methods and what is meant by method in Java. Okay, so Java class we have seen. So as I told you, I will tell some more about class. Class is a blueprint we have seen. So class is something like it stores the functions or method in one block of code, basically. Consider as an example, sketch of house is a class. Then it contains all details about the prototype of house, doors, windows, etc., etc. House is a house is an object of that class sketch of house. Basically, I created this sketch of house. Now house is an object. So what I can do is class contains all properties of that object related. So syntax to declare it, I told you, class name as we created there, and I'm going to specify access specifier before that. Consider if you are not given any access specifier there, by default it will be default access specifier, which is basically public only in Java. But if you can specify public, private, and protected is fully protected, like you have to invoke, it's more what we can say archived method for privacy and security. So as I told you, in object, we are going to create object. I'm not created here any object, but we are going to create an object for that purpose also. So it's basically used to call class or execute that class. Object is also called as instance of classes. Without object, we cannot call class. Always remember that to call the class, we have to use object. So for that example, previous example, as I told you, sketch of house, class sketch of house, door and windows are some methods, or we can say functions inside this. So this is main method. If you know that in the Java, public static void main is a default method to execute any program in Java. Without this, you cannot start the program, or you cannot execute the program. For that sketch of house, I created this object obj. You can see obj1 new like this, and execute that object. We are going to see in further details about Java objects. So now Java methods. Now why we needed methods? So I will show in the IDE basically. If I want to print something in IDE, my default method is system.out. Now you will see the error here basically. System.out, any error, it is not invocable inside any class. Why? The thing is, it's only defined to the method. First create method, create class, inside that create some method, then you can invoke it, that method, as simple as that. So methods are declared within the classes. It contains whole code of particular functions. Method contains return value and access specifiers. They are the object classes. As object classes are created, we can easily access methods using that object. Main method is default method, as I told you, to run or build code or project, anything. Main method, always remember, public static void main, and it's always returns strings. You cannot change to integer or something like that. You can print integers, but you cannot return integers inside main method. Packages are in the Java, as I told you. I am again telling that it's just creating a folder and I am storing all the classes inside it. Now there are two methods, user defined methods and standard library methods. User defined methods, like I'm going to create some methods here. Similarly, like that, you can also create some user defined methods. Basically, it's shows that it's userly defined methods. There are some standard library methods that I created, scanner, system, all the standard library methods that I mentioned, built-in methods in Java. So if you want to check number even or odd, there you can create some even odd functions, that's user defined. But I specified some library method like random, system. These are .in, basically are system defined methods. So now let's move on to our code. Now I told you about let's see how we can proceed with building our project. So we created all things here. Now I want to create one constructor. Now what constructor will do? It will print what I want, basically, first thing. Second thing, it will give me the output, and as well as creating constructor itself is the like privacy thing inside Java. I am going to invoke, or I am going to run only constructor. So it will not use this private string or something like that. It will take value from that, but you cannot change this value. Or we can say third party cannot change this value. Just I'm going to create it. So constructor, I'm going to specify that here note receive first name, last name, and everything. That's it. I'm going to tell like only for that only, like first name, last name, that's it. You can change it to some other names also, but be careful about the name. Now consider I am going to create this as a public. Always remember, class and constructor have same name. So I'm going to give the constructor attributes f name, same name I'm giving. Always remember, inside the constructor you have to give same name. After that, you need to specify something like this f name and this f name are totally different.